So in the entire 2 hours, I believe this is the best value that I have on anything in the show. My beautiful son, who's here with me today, he actually bought me a really fancy set of steak knives. And let me tell you, when you get a really good set of steak knives, it changes the game. I use them for everything. They're kind of dressy, but I love them. These knives are incredible. If you want a knife that will go through virtually anything, now we call them steak knives, because if you're using them on a steak, it's the greatest steak knife you've ever had.
I'll show you.
And I love the fact that they are not serrated. Do not buy a serrated knife for steaks. You are gonna wind up sawing through the steak.
Thank you, guys.
All right? And you're gonna trash the steak. It's the same with turkey. It's the same with chicken. You want a straight edge blade that is sharp. And what's wonderful about this, and the reason we call it the wavy edge, is that there are actually channels in this knife which create air pockets. So once the knife has gone through and does its cutting, the release is about 100 times better. And you'll notice it more when you're doing things like cheese or mozzarella.
Cucumbers.
And by the way, it's a wonderful prep knife too, but I'll tell you, fancy. It's got all the features that we look for, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but look at that, how easy it did that steak. So, it's everything I've had in the air and on air today where it was over 1,000 is sold out. I've got 1,070 of these. People are buying them like hotcakes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, you got a
more
steak
for you there.
Ooh, it's a fresh
one,
Guy, too.
Here's what I love about this knife. Yes, it's a steak knife. It's also an amazing utility knife. We're talking about Japanese steel, tip to tail. The whole thing is a forged piece of steel. This isn't a cheap stamped knife. This is forged Japanese steel. Look at this wavy coating. There's a non-stick coating with a wave. That means things don't stick. Whether it's a cucumber, cheese, or yes, your steak. And Guy said it, you don't want a serrated knife to turn your steak into gristle. You want a smooth blade. And both you and I, being restaurant guys, when we saw this, it's Japanese steel, that's like the fanciest steel you can get. And you get 4 of them. It's unbelievable as a steak knife.
Look at this.
It's unbelievable as a utility knife. Look how thin you can go there.
Somebody knows how to cook a steak, I'll tell you that much.
Cast iron, buddy.
All right, do I have a little plate? I'm gonna give some of these to Danny. Want some steak?
Feed the guests. You know what I mean? But Guy, it's awesome as a steak knife, because imagine a set of 4, having a steak knife at home, that's a great way to entertain, and it's gonna glide through your steak. But even as your utility knife every day for your prep,
flaky salt
is just under 5 inches. That's a great utility knife.
Here, bro. Come on out and get it.
Danny's eating today.
Here comes Dan. I shouldn't feed him much because he's going to eventually be taller than me, which is, that's all I really got left. I'm a little bit taller than him, but he's only in his early 20s. So, I grew like, it's good steak, right? It's fantastic.
Look at that.
And the chopping, obviously we're calling these steak knives, right?
Use them for prep.
I want you to see what a real steak knife is supposed to be like. That is what it's supposed to be like. It's supposed to cut through like butter.
Yep.
And that's what this knife does. It is perfectly balanced. And here's what I love about it. And I'll grab one that is clean.
Here you go.
Take that one.
Look at that.
And I'll go through what I love about it. I know a little bit about cutlery.
Yeah.
When I was working in the restaurant business, one of the things that our jobs was to buy product for the restaurant. And we served prime rib, so we had really nice steak knives. And the ones we picked, I wasn't crazy about because they were serrated and they were big. And I'm like, I get it. You want it to look like a weapon out there, but this is a better knife because you can sharpen it.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the back of the knife, and we'll come in close. We got something cooking over there.
More steaks.
Now, this is one single piece of steel, Japanese steel, that goes from the top all the way to the bottom. That is one piece of steel all the way through, all right? And then you've got triple rivets on this. It's almost like a Bakelite handle. And then look at how wide the blade is going up and down. That's important. That's almost like a chef's knife, right? Very well balanced. And remember, when you cut, there's a little bolster here. I always grab right there. See a little spot right there? That's where your finger is supposed to go, right there, and then you curl it under, and that gives you the control. Whether you're using it to prep food or whether you're using it to cut a steak, but it's gorgeous.
Ergonomic.
If I saw this in a 5-star restaurant, I'd look at it and I'd go,
and you get 4.
These knives are really nice.
Japanese steel, that non-stick coating, you saw me go through the cheese, the cucumbers, it doesn't stick to the blade. But the bottom Japanese steel blade is exposed, so you can sharpen it over the years. This is heirloom quality knifeware. It is tip to tail. One solid piece of Japanese steel. It's not stamped. This is very important for balance. Forged Japanese steel. And yes, you're gonna serve it with your steaks, but you're also gonna use it at just under 5 inches long as your day-to-day utility knife. You saw me glide through tomatoes, cucumbers, cheese.
They're half gone.
They're unbelievable.
They're half gone. Did you bring me out of, she brought me out a chimichurri. I think it's a chimichurri.
I'm gonna give you, look at this big strip loin.
Oh my gosh.
Look at the big strip loin now. If you invest in a nice piece of steak, you wanna serve it with an actual knife. I love that you said that. A steak knife should not be serrated. It's gonna turn your steak into gristle. Look at this, gliding through that steak.
Wow.
That's the kind of steak knife you wanna serve it with. But again, you're gonna use it every single day as a utility knife at just under 5 inches and let it glide through that steak without sawing into it. When you think about it,
$20.
you don't want to saw into your beautiful steak. See that non-stick ridges right there and the Japanese steel forged, tip to tail.
I don't know how you feel, but a serrated knife for me is for bread.
A serrated knife is for bread, maybe a tomato, but even this
cutting a sandwich. I like it there because you're going through multiple levels of veggies and all that stuff, and you want to kind of saw your way through. You don't want to saw through. If you're sawing through a piece of meat, the meat's not very good.
That's it.
All right? It should glide right through, and
Look at that.
It does. Look at that.
Look at how it glides through my steak.
And remember, when you buy a serrated knife, they say you can sharpen them, but you really cannot.
You cannot.
They're next to impossible to sharpen. These you can sharpen, and remember, when you use a steak, very often, or when you're cutting on a harder surface. It will dull over time, so invest in a really good knife sharpener. But
look at that.
Only like real chefs will use real knives. These are real knives. These are not serrated cheater knives.
Japanese steel,
They're
man.
Japanese. I mean, when you buy the expensive knives, it's either German or Japanese steel, right? The best manufacturers of steel. And that is really what the knife is all about. Obviously, it's how it's made and all that stuff, and how it's been tempered and fired and all that stuff. You're getting this class of knife at a price that is way down here. And not only that, they look great. They look impressive. One piece of steel. You don't want a knife where the blade is attached to the handle.
Look at that. Tip to tail.
It goes all the way through. And then they could have double riveted, they triple riveted. That's what you see on the fancy German knives that are $900 for a set of knives. All right? Danny you bought me that Japanese knife. Japanese steel.
Japanese steel.
How much was that one knife? Danny bought me a knife for Christmas, $300.
Now, but this is why, as restaurant guys...
That's why I love them.
As
what
restaurant...
do you mean it's sold out? Oh, my gosh.
I'll save you a set.